Happy Saturday morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Saturday morning coffee and conversation, little mini episode of the Over It podcast. We are one man down today. Tara Setmayer is not with us. She is traveling back from New York, where she killed it yet again on the CNN. We're going to talk about that. But let's first welcome, of course, Julie Roginski, Salty Politics on Substack.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, good morning. And good morning to Michelle Kinney. And by the way, I apologize for this like crazy buzz of mine. I'll explain why. I'm like so amped up right now and I need to dial it back down from a way over a 15 to like a 7. But Michelle Kinney, co-founder of the Seneca Project, we're also killing it with content, by the way. Good morning, ladies. Yeah, I'm riding a weird, crazy, shaky buzz.
Tell everybody what you just did because it's awesome. Go ahead.
I just had sex with a mountain lion on live TV.
Okay. Even better than sex with a mountain lion. You just did.
Did Michelle just spit out her coffee?
I just never know what you're going to say. And that was not even like on the top.
Was it on your bingo card? Oh, it's going to be such a letdown now, by the way. After something up the sex with the mountain lion, it's going to be like, well,
I did not have sex with the mountain lion.
All right. Well, that's a buzz kill. Let's just move on. But go ahead.
I was just on CNN. I was on the Michael Smirkana show, which is like crazy for me because I was just saying to Julie and Michelle that I cut my political teeth on literally consuming every show from top to bottom that was on the Saturday and Sunday morning, news networks. And back then it was mostly NBC, like Tim Russert, et cetera. But so this was sort of a trip for me because I was like so nervous, but also like really meant something, which I'm going to unpack a little bit probably on my Substack. But yeah, so you guys are, Julie for sure, used to doing TV hits and stuff. This is not my lane. Michelle was talking about when she was on MSNBC. She was nervous.
I really had to take like medicine to calm me down because we were launching Seneca Project. It was a very big deal. There was some other stuff going on that I won't get into, but we were on Nicole Wallace. I'd never been on TV before, like this. And so I was like, oh my God, is she going to ask me something I don't know the answer to? Oh my God. And then right before we went on, they're like, oh, we're going to have you on for 2 segments. I was like, 2?
Great. That's fantastic.
You were there in person, right? Were you there?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
no,
you were there, Michelle?
We were remote. We were supposed to be there, and then we ended up being remote.
I don't know what would be scarier. Sorry, Julie. But what would be scarier? I don't know. For me, I think being there would probably be less scary somehow. Just seeing them.
I think so too. It's like more human. Yeah.
Yeah. But Julie, you're such a pro. You also kill it.
You know what, you guys? As you're saying this, I remember, as everybody remembers their first time. I remember my first time was in the winter of 2004, and I remember very distinctly being on Fox and Friends weekend on Fox News with somebody who eventually became such a close friend of mine, Juliette Huddy, that I was the maid of honor at one of her weddings.
Wow.
But back then, I just remember walking onto that set. I remember exactly what I was wearing. I remember exactly how the sun was kind of coming in through the windows. And I remember walking out of 1211 6th Avenue, which is the Fox News headquarters, walking down the street and being like, do people recognize me now? Like it was such a weird kind of feeling. And then you do this enough and you realize, you guys, like it's what we do here, I think, is actually a lot tougher in some ways because we have to do a whole show for, an hour and a half. And it's great. I mean, Joe, I was telling Joe on the chat before that I missed it because I was making breakfast for my son, but I can't wait to watch it. I'm sure you were fantastic. If anybody here in the chat wants to tell me how Joe did, if you happen to watch it, that's great. Beth Black, I'm sorry that we're taking too long to get to the point. We have to just decompress a little bit from the nightmare of last week and maybe talk about stuff that not necessarily something that you can relate to, but I think it's awesome that Joe did this, and I'm so sick to watch. And you better post the clip, and we all better watch it.
And our Saturday conversations are meant to be more of like a conversation between friends, really. Yeah. I mean, like the kind of stuff we don't have to come out of the gate. We don't always have to come out at a 15. Like, I'm still literally live unpacking something that was a pretty big moment for me in my life, and I had this both peers and personal friends of mine now that I get to unpack it with, who understand it in a sense that very few people could. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know that there's a trillion things to talk about. We talk about them constantly offline, and we talk about them all the time online, but we also are human beings, right? Like, so, you know, if you're not here for the human connection, maybe this isn't your jam, but like, that's really important to me, is because I think that, yes, I don't think everybody in the world is like, oh, I feel seen because Joe was on CNN. But I think being a human and experiencing human emotions in the midst of a sea of chaos and where we're being ripped apart from each other is crucially important. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm coming from. These Saturday morning conversations are so good and cathartic in that way. So we will, like we always do, because we can't help but not, we will talk about those things. But just as a human being, I literally ended this Reconish thing and came on to this conversation. So I would be betraying myself and my core and who I am and these beautiful women on the screen if I didn't just lean into that a little bit. So apologies, not really apologies.
And by the way, somebody, HL Megan's Ghost, saw you on Smarkana show. Great job, very professional. Love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Love it.
I was very reserved, which for me is like, who is that? So
you didn't drop an F-bomb?
I did not. No F-bombs. It was not
no.
one. Sorry, Julie's dad. I literally said to my friend, I said, I'm going to channel talking to Julie's dad. I'm going to pretend that I'm talking to Julie's dad. And so I'm going to be very professional and G-rated. I did get my own little digs in. I said, I mentioned an Entenmann's coffee cake. And I also said that talking to Steve Bannon is like stapling Jello. But that's it. I did not not one fuck, not one bullshit. Not one shitty, like that'll be the offline. But anyway, how are you guys doing on this very cloudy Saturday morning in Jersey?
First of all, I actually feel really bad because Smirconish to me is always Sirius XM because Tara feels for him sometimes. So I thought it was Sirius XM that you were doing. I didn't realize it was CNN. Otherwise I would have turned my TV on. Now I feel really bad. So I'll go back and watch it.
I'm actually glad that you didn't. Because I probably would have been more nervous.
We are going to watch it. We're going to dissect it. We're going to discuss every part of your outfit and your hair and your lipstick and say that this was wrong and this was wrong and this was wrong, because that's really what happens every time anybody goes on TV. You have a bunch of incel guys on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Some I think are probably in this chat.
I know, like reading
you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too homely, you're too this, you're too that. Like, I'm so sorry I didn't wake up in the morning and think about glamming myself up to make you look good.
I wrote a great shirt on the screen. By the way, this shirt, I bought this shirt because this is a weird, it's like, I promise we are going to stop talking about me, but I bought this shirt because when they did a parody of me on SNL and Dakota Johnson played me, I was like, I don't have a blue button down shirt. I need to get a blue button down shirt so I can parody Dakota Johnson parodying me. So then I went and bought this blue shirt so that I could then make a video making fun of Dakota, not making fun of, but pointing out that Dakota Johnson made fun of me on SNL. So that's why I have
Michelle, you look shocked.
Can you talk about that for a second? Because even my parents, my dad asked me, he's like, can you ask Joe about, she said something about SNL. Did I hear that correctly? And I was like, I don't know. Because I don't think that I know.
Oh God, so it's so crazy. So real fast. So really fast. So 2 years last year. So it was midnight on a Saturday, and I'm the mom of the year. So my kids were up, and I was doing abs on the floor, not watching SNL. But my life is, mom of the year. My kids are up on social media, and I have two friends, Brooklyn Dad Define, Majid Padelin, and Andy Ostroy texted me at like 12:15 or 12:20, and they were like, "I think you're on SNL," and I was like, "No, I'm at home doing abs." And they're like, "No, I think you're on SNL." And I was like, "No, I'm at home in my town with my kids," not connecting the dots. And then Brooklyn sent me a screenshot of of Dakota Johnson with hair that looks suspiciously like mine. And the caption said Joanne Carducci. And I was like, oh, that's because it's the BG show. And they're having a hard time understanding. Your phone doesn't understand the captioning. So because I'm a contact of yours, your phone thinks that that's me. He's like, Joe, then he sends me a video and it's Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake singing Joanne Carducci. And I'm like, what? So I don't even turn it on at this point, because now it's like this I don't even know what's happening. I'm like inside out, upside down. I think actually say to my kids, am I dead? Did I die? Guys, am I? And I know that's traumatizing sounding, and it probably was in real time, because Abby was like, what do you mean? And I was like, supposedly I'm on SNL right now, because it doesn't make any sense. And so I couldn't watch it. And they were like, what? And then my friends start blowing up, and then everything starts blowing up. And then I'm like, what the hell? Nobody reached out. I had no idea any of it was happening. It blew up the next day, not because of me, but because Justin and Jimmy hadn't done that sketch in 10 years. So they had me and Ellie Mistal, who's I love. They parodied us, and they did not drag me, which was shocking. And Dakota Johnson played me, which is more shocking. But I had literally no idea any of it was happening. And I spent the next, like, well, you know, Julie, you can't speak to this because you have a kid, but like my kids woke up the next morning and they're like, can you make us pancakes? I don't give a crap that you're on SNL.
Oh, couldn't care less. I literally like if there's not a moment in my life, and this is not being on SNL or being parodied by SNL, which makes you an effing legend, but I could be literally on live television. He knows I'm on live television, and he'll be like, do you know where my charger is?
Right. They don't care.
If I don't respond right away, because, you know, I'm on TV, he'll keep spamming me. He'll be like, mom, question mark, question mark, question mark. And I'm like, hey, Sammy, hello from London.
Nice. Hi, London. I would love to be in London's weather.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all the locations here. It's kind of amazing. So
Norway. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
You're asking about Mark Elias. Oh, do I have stories?
Yeah. So how enough about the Joe show. Like, how are your Saturday mornings going? What do you guys want to talk about?
So you guys, Michelle and I were going to do a Substack live last night, because we were so just about everything that happened. And thank you. There are people in this chat who told me, who saw me on MSNBC. Thank you for watching. As you could tell, I was super angry in ways that I got to tell you, like, I don't lose my shit on TV. Like, it's not what I do. Cause you know, there's only so much drama one can muster. But, I have to say that I just was reeling yesterday, because I knew that this was going to happen. Like, I knew it. And I called it out on CNN on, I guess, Thursday morning. I don't remember. The days are all blending into each other. But I kind of was like, you know, Schumer came out and did this whole press conference about how we're united and we're not going to vote for this shit sandwich. And I was like, yeah, okay, we'll see about that. And I knew that it was going to happen. And of course it did happen. Like, it wasn't even a surprise to me, but I felt, you know, I'm at the point in my life where, like, I've been an establishment Democrat my whole life. I have worked within the system my whole life. I have worked for every establishment politician my whole life. I keep joking that I worked for two people who used to be on the managing committee of Goldman Sachs, one of who was a chairman of Goldman Sachs. So, like, I am not a barricade kind of girl. But I'm like no more. Like, was never a Bernie Sanders person. Like, I'm a Bernie Sanders person, because it's not even about ideology anymore to me. It's about fight. And I'm so sick of these people who just don't know how to fight. And I was so furious yesterday that I had trouble going to sleep. I was so furious this morning when I woke up. I'm still furious now. I know you can't. I feel like Michael Dukakis from that SNL skit where, like, I'm angry, I'm furious. It doesn't seem that way. I know it doesn't seem that way, but I'm really pissed off and devastated. And I keep saying, and I say this on Substack all the time, it's up to us now, but, like, it's really up to us now. Hey, Tara Mayer, who's watching us from the Acela. We miss you so, so much. Tara is in the quiet car on the Acela. Hello.
Nice
We miss you. You're here with us in spirit. We will see you on Wednesday.
We miss you.
We miss you. But I got to tell you, like, and by the way, Tara was amazing on CNN last night too. If anybody saw her on Abby Phillips' show, she was great and took it, you know, took the fight right to a few Trumpers who I don't even know what they're still doing around anywhere. So I'm just pissed. I don't know how you guys are. I'm pissed. I'm despondent. I'm angry. I'm a New Yorker who will literally, if somebody wants to primary Chuck Schumer, I keep saying, Michelle, you and I both live in New York. I'm nominating Michelle to step up and run against Chuck Schumer.
You were joking about it on the stakes. So Tara was like, even Julie keeps saying, like, I don't care who has to do it. I'll make Michelle do it. I'm like, can you imagine? I mean,
why not? I can imagine.
Why not? I can imagine.
No, I listen, running for office is a very brave thing to do. And I commend anyone who does it. I am not that person. So
I just don't want to travel north of 96th Street. So that's why I wouldn't do it, because I just don't, I'm too lazy to go upstate. But if anybody, or even to Brooklyn, quite honestly, because that's a trek. And
okay, Brooklyn is like another situation.
Brooklyn's like a whole other, Brooklyn's like a whole other world.
Well, live in Philadelphia. Like it's faster for me to get on the Zella and go to Philadelphia than it is to see my friends in Greenpoint. I mean, I'm just saying, one of my best friends moved to Prospect Heights, and I actually cried. I was like, no. He's like, Michelle, I'm going to Brooklyn. I was like, no. And I never see him anymore.
It's easier to get to Jersey from the city than it is to Brooklyn.
100%. If you're in the West Side, like the two of us are, it is so much easier to get to New Jersey, and preferable to get to New Jersey because it is the promised land, than to get to Brooklyn. Like, so that's my point. But whoever here does not have the same allergy to traveling to like outer boroughs as Michelle and I do. But when it wants to primary Chuck Schumer, I'm with you. Like, AOC is not ideologically, she was never my cup of tea necessarily. But I'd vote for her. I'd vote for her. I'd run to vote for her. I'd be like first in line when those polls open to 6 a.m.
She's killing it. Michelle, what would you say to Brian Schatz right now if you could talk to Brian Schatz? Brian Schatz was watching. Senator Brian Schatz. What would you say to him?
Yeah, but why don't you tell people what Brian Schatz did before you tell them how you tell them?
So the vote yesterday, as we all know, they voted, and I did not work on the Hill, so Julie, I might need help with some of the procedural terminology. So they voted yes on cloture, and they were supposed to vote no. So basically, they could have needed 60 votes, right? But instead, they voted to simple majority.
Just real quickly, not to bore anybody with stupid Senate procedure, but
this is shit like we had real civic school.
It's
not our fault that we don't. It's the system's fault that we don't know them enough.
And my son is now learning all of this stuff in 7th grade, and I love it because he's like, "This is how a bill becomes a law." I was like, "This is how a bill used to become a law." Trump decided to simply abrogate Congress's responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, what you need to move most legislation in the Senate is you need to have it come to the floor for a vote. In order for most things to come to the floor for a vote, you need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. Democrats have no power whatsoever right now, except they have the filibuster because there are not 60 Republicans to move any legislation. So when you vote for cloture, which is a really boring phrase, and I'm sorry to be boring people at 10:21 a.m. on a Saturday morning, but voting for cloture means that you're basically allowing the legislation to come to the floor. Had 9 Democrats not voted for cloture yesterday, this shit sandwich would never have come to the floor to be voted on, as it was by most Democrats, including the ones who voted for cloture, opposed it, except for 2, Jean Shaheen and somebody else. By the way, Chuck Schumer and John Fetterman, for all of their bravado, did not vote for the final CR. So you're even bigger assholes because you pounded your chest and then decided to do it. But nevertheless, what Chuck Schumer and those other Democrats did is allowed this bill to be voted on with a simple majority, which it was, and which is why it passed, which is why Donald Trump will immediately take all this money and not spend it.
Cut it from programs like, that feed hungry kids and starving families and fund cancer research and right.
And before we get to Michelle, answering her question about Brian Schatz, who was a hero of ours until yesterday. Jay from Norway, you have a question. Are we stuck with this president until the election? Can the American people force another election? Well, Jay, actually, the Constitution does allow the House of Representatives to impeach the president and the Senate to convict him, and then he wouldn't be able to run for office again, ever, or he'd have to leave immediately. Unfortunately, in the country that we live in today, even something like inciting an insurrection does not get Republicans in the Senate to vote to convict Donald Trump. So yes, not only are we stuck with him until the election, but I have some bad news. I'm not so sure that he's going to leave after the election. And I'm not so sure there's anybody here to make him leave after the election because he controls anybody who'd remove him. So we are in a very scary place. I'm very glad you're safe in Scandinavia. I wish I were too, but here in the United States, it is a effing dystopia and horrible. Anyway, back to Brian Schatz. Go ahead.
Sorry, Tara's. I hang with you guys in the chat for as long as I can before getting totally nauseated. So Tara has debilitating, crippling motion sickness. So if she has a really hard time riding in the back of cars, or if she's on the train and she's looking at something or riding in the wrong way, like she gets really sick. So I always know when she's traveling not to text her too much. So this is actually a little funny. So Tara, please look up, look out the window, listen in, and we love you. Okay. So 2 things. First of all, I saw someone in the comments say, nice shirt. I am wearing my Syracuse jersey shirt today because Selection Sunday is on Sunday. March Madness used to be my most favorite time of year. I have been going to Syracuse basketball games since I was 5 years old in 1987. And we suck so badly now. Jim Boeheim kind of, I feel like, ruined the program in his last few years by putting all of his offspring on the starting lineup, and then it killed recruiting. And now we are in a complete rebuilding situation. And I'm at a point where Syracuse might never, ever be in March Madness again. And I'm very, very sad about it. So I am just, I'm being very nostalgic here with all of my Syracuse stuff. And I also went to school there. So anyway, so that's that. So thank you for the shout out about the shirt. Okay. So Brian Schatz. Very.
He was like your boyfriend, Michelle.
I love him. Or I love him. He was one of the ones. First of all, I mean, I say younger. I think he's like 51 or 52, and it was him, Murphy, and Booker. Yeah, I was like, these are the guys. They're like really trying. They seem like good people. Chris Murphy, I have so much respect and love for him because of my memories of Sandy Hook. And that endeared me to him. And then Booker, obviously, when he was mayor of Newark, I was like, what a nice guy. He cares, love him. But Brian Schatz, obviously, he's been, I think, a senator since 2012. He's from Hawaii. Just seems like a really nice guy, cares a lot about climate. He's a dad. I always think about what that must be like to be a senator and have to fly 13 hours back and forth from DC. Anyways, very dedicated guy. And we were big fans at Seneca Project. He really takes people to task. And when I was at Lincoln too, I made sure that we did rapid response content about him taking Hawley to task on the floor. But anyways, he voted yes yesterday with Chuck Schumer, Fetterman, the other ones. Some of the other ones, Chuck Schumer, he sucks. I'm surprised but not surprised by him. Gillibrand too, because she just won her re-election, and I was like, she doesn't care. She's not up until 2030. But Brian Schatz is the one out of all of them that I am the most disappointed. Like, I really actually broke my heart a little bit. I was like, please don't tell me that he's all talk. Please don't tell me. I always want to believe that people are there to do the right thing, because there's a lot of people in politics who are not. And that means people who are holding office. These are people who run PACs. There are a lot of people who are not there for the right reasons, and they are there to make money or get famous or whatever else. There's a lot of that. Won't name names, but I really believed that I was like, I don't understand. And he put out a statement after saying why, and I thought it was complete bullshit.
I have it in front of me if you want me to read any of it.
Why don't you? What's his excuse?
My job is to protect people in Hawaii. Today's vote on the continuing resolution was a difficult and close call, but ultimately I made the determination that a flawed bill was better than no bill at all. A shutdown would enable Donald Trump and Elon Musk to unilaterally determine that the vast majority of federal workers are not essential. They're doing that. And given the number of federal workers in Hawaii, mass furloughs would be deeply painful for people across the state. I will just read this last part. We are in a fight for democracy itself. We can't let disagreements about strategy and tactics divide us. We need to focus our energy on the real villain here, Donald Trump. How do you make a statement like that while literally emboldening and empowering Donald Trump?
This is the thing where people don't seem to understand the stakes. They don't seem to he's going to take full advantage. He wants a shutdown. He's going to take full advantage and he's going to dismantle. What do you think he is already doing? And he's doing it while the federal government is open. For God's sakes. Like, why give
in you and you just handed him like the freaking knife to do it?
Here's what's gonna happen. Here's what's gonna happen, you guys, because it's so predictable. It's not even like you don't have to be Cassandra to know what's happening here.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen is that Donald Trump is going to now place tariffs, as he already said he will, on everything. So to my Canadian friends, I'm so sorry. I feel like I have to apologize to you every time I do these shows. But yes, Tara, that Chad's bullshit statement is bullshit. I love that Tara is part of this show, even from the we love it. But the problem is that now we own it. Because what this CR does, which with the House Republicans tucked into the CR, which I don't know why it hasn't gotten as much attention as it should. It's gotten some attention, but it's not something Democrats are pounding the drum on, is typically Congress is the body that levies tariffs. This allows Trump to be the person to levy tariffs through the end of this Congress, through the end of this session of Congress, through the end of this year. Right. Actually, it's through December.
Right.
So when you have tariffs coming on April 2nd, as he says he's going to on Europe and our European Union allies, more in Canada, on Mexico, more in China, I mean, everywhere, what's going to end up happening is that now Donald Trump is going to say, well, the Democrats are doing it with me. And guess what, Democrats? You did. You gave him the authority to do that. So I don't give a rat's ass, quite honestly, if you think this is good for Hawaii or bad for Hawaii. It's awful for Hawaii because Hawaii imports everything. You guys don't grow much. I mean, if you think you don't bring Hawaii's the most expensive state to live in precisely because they have to import everything, and not just from the mainland, but also from other countries. So God bless my friends in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I don't know what you think you're going to be doing.
And to say you're worried about federal workers in Hawaii when Donald Trump and Elon Musk are literally gutting, full on decimating, the federal workforce, he's already doing that. So anything that you do that emboldens and empowers him to further do that, and then give him the purse strings on top of everything else, again, it's like they're self-gelding. And I just, in this moment, I don't give a fuck about optics, because I think a lot of this has to do with optics. They were like, oh, it's the Schumer shutdown. I don't care. Start saying it's the Trump shutdown. They have all the levers of power. All the responsibility should be in their laps. How you thought for 1 second that this was going to land in your laps when now it actually has is literally insane. Yeah.
And they wrote it. It's
and by the way,
and they didn't coordinate it with the Dems.
It's not just us saying this. There's a Quinnipiac poll out. I talked about it yesterday on air, but there was a Quinnipiac poll out, I think on Wednesday or Thursday. And it showed, and this is really important, that 32% of all Americans blame Democrats for any shutdown. And that 32% is pretty much Trump's base, right? They're going to blame Democrats if the sun, doesn't rise one day. But everybody else blamed either Donald Trump or House Republicans. We had them where we or not House or congressional Republicans. We had them where we wanted them from a political standpoint. And if anybody who's like, well, you don't play politics with blah, blah, blah. Yeah, actually you do. Because the way you get back into the majority is to make it politically untenable for people to support them in the two special elections that are coming up right now. And Michelle, you made such a good point a couple of days ago on either, I think it was over it on Wednesday, or maybe it was last Saturday. But everybody's like, well, those are Republican districts. I don't know. We won Alabama.
Thank you, Doug Jones.
We have won seats before when Donald Trump has been in office that we had no business winning. So you don't tell me that we can't win 2 House seats in Florida. And yet, right now, the Democratic base is so disgusted and dispirited with the Democratic Party in Washington that how do you get them to go to the barrack? How do you get them to vote? How do you get them to even remotely be excited enough to go and vote right now? Some people.
Yep.
Right. What are you voting for? For Chuck Schumer to acquiesce?
Oh,
right. And this
we will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Did you see Jack Schlossberg's
You love Jack Schlossberg.
He's hot. He's hot.
You're transferring your love from Jack Schlossberg.
I can appreciate
I actually like Jack Schlossberg. I actually think he's very funny. I enjoy it. I enjoy that. But he and I feel like he is Little Edie. If you know Little Edie from Grey Gardens, I was like, he's not a Kennedy, he's a Bouvier, and there's a complete difference. But anyway,
maybe he's a Schlossberg.
Yeah.
What do we know about that side of the family? But go ahead.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything. But he did an impression of Chuck Schumer that like sent me. I was laughing so hard. But anyways, so I feel like to your point, Julie, about the red districts and everything. There are some places, that no, there's nothing you can do. But there are some places that you can, that there's a chance. And I think at least for New York 21, which is the district where I am from, I grew up there. This is a district that is getting hit in every which way possible by all of Donald Trump's horrible policies. The 10th Mountain Division, Fort Drum, is up there. It is the largest employer in the area. Any public schools in the area, based on how many military kids go to those schools, is directly correlates to how much federal funding they get for that school. There's 3 school districts up there, which, funny enough, is the one where Tom Homan went to school, that relies on federal funding. Indian River School District is the first one outside of Fort Drum. Let's talk about immigration and how that has affected the farming industry up there. It's a huge rural area. There's a lot of farms. The candidate on the Democratic side is a farmer. He's a dairy farmer and can speak to that and can speak to people in a very real way, in a personal way. And then not to mention the federal cuts to food supply stuff. Any food supply that's supposed to go to USAID or any food that's supposed to go to public schools, because this is another thing now too. They're cutting funding for public schools and all of their food supply. So or food that money that was going to be spent on school lunches and things like that. So there's so many different ways. And then we're talking about Canada. That's right on the Canadian border from the Thousand Islands up until Plattsburgh. It's a huge, huge area. The area depends on tourism, trade, all kinds of things going back and forth the border there. And so this is a district that is very uniquely going to be and is being affected by this. And it is an underserved area. They have very little access to broadband in some parts of the district, high unemployment, access to health care. You have to drive in some cases hours to see a doctor. Because if you look at the state map, it's geographically huge. I mean, when my friend ran against Elise Stefanik 2 times, I mean, driving from one end of the district to the other would take her hours, and she would sometimes have to stay overnight. Like, that's how far it was, because you're going all the way from Lake Placid, Adirondack. It's ginormous. So the Republicans have not chosen their candidate yet. Last I heard, there's a guy, I think his last name's Constantino or something. He owns a sticker company in Amsterdam, New York, and he is like an Elon Musk fanboy. He's friends with Roger Stone. Roger Stone threw a campaign event for him in Glens Falls that was quite literally a cage match. Like, this is what we're dealing with, a very sweet young man who runs a dairy farm and was in the Peace Corps, and a sticker guy who's doing cage match fights with Roger Stone. There's a couple other people that are being talked about as well. If they pick one of the normies, because Mark Molinaro, I know at one point was talking about running up there too, even though he's not even from there. If they go with a normie, I think Constantino would be angry enough to run third party. So there's a couple scenarios there that will siphon off votes, especially in a time that voter turnout could be quite low. So there are ways here. There are paths.
But do you feel like, Michelle, like that they haven't, the establishment, the Democrats haven't given enough attention to these races? Like, I feel like Gillibrand should be talking about 21 all the time. Schumer should be talking about 21. I feel like every elected official should be talking about 1 and 6 in Florida, and they're not talking about it.
They've totally given up on the area.
Florida one. Yeah, Matt Gaetz' district, Gay Valmont is incredible, and there are so many veterans there with feelings right now. Why don't I see all of these elected officials out there on the ground, knocking on doors in these districts? These races can change everything. I mean, we're seeing Democrats dying, rest in peace. Like, there are old people in Congress. They're going to, this thing is going to fluctuate. These seats are critical. And it's like, where are they? It's crickets.
Yeah. And so I think it was 2009 when Barack Obama appointed John McHugh, who was the congressman in that district, to be Secretary of the Army. They had to refill that seat. Bill Owens ran as a Democrat, and then there was like a kind of not a great person running in the Republican side, and then I think there was an independent. So that led to Bill Owens, the Democrat, winning. He won. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he only stayed in, I think, for like 1 or 2 terms or something like that. And then Elise Stefanik, who, you know, went up there and had Karl Rove and Paul Ryan stumping for her.
So you remember, Elise Stefanik was like the most Bushy. She came out of the Bush White House.
Yes, she was the compassionate
White House. I mean, her transformation from like Harvard grad, best girl, George Bush normie, which I can't even believe I'm calling George Bush people normies, because let's not forget what he's to like MAGA princess is one of the most cynical transformations possible.
She is a bad one.
I mean, I used to think she believed in something, but I think she's an evil nihilist, and she has an advisor. His name is Alex DeGrasse. He is a mean, nasty, really vindictive and evil guy, young guy. And he was, I think still is, her right-hand man. And I think that really led also to her demise in terms of her character. But I mean, this is where it's just like, she's a political windsock. She just, you know, she's like, which way is the wind blowing?
Yep.
And, you know, and she was down in Mar-a-Lago having lunch with Ivanka Trump and everything. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I know people who went to Harvard with her, and they were like, no one talks to her anymore. No one wants to be friends with her anymore because of what she has done. I mean, I don't know how you can excuse an insurrection. I really can't. I don't know.
And he gave her UN, right? Because of course that's the one the bone he likes to throw at the ladies, like he did with Nikki Haley, who's another weathercock, the weathercockiest weathercock that ever weathercocked, other than Marco Weathercock Rubio cock.
Von Rubio, as I call him. Yeah.
But Tara put in the chat, she mentioned back to these special elections that they should be giving, they should 1000% of, where did it go? That we should be focusing on these elections because it gives people something to do. They want something to do. People they're looking around and they're like, what can I do? I need to feel like I am somehow participating in standing in the breach in this moment. And they're like, what? I don't know what else to do besides postcards and whatever, tweets. And this is something you can actually do. These special elections can make the difference. They can stop the worst of their agenda, and people have to understand that there is action they can take, small and large, but I just don't understand why they are not making these a bigger deal. And I know I sound like a broken record, but the special elections in Florida are coming up really soon. Like we're having a get out the vote final push on March 27th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern with the Florida Democratic Party. Tune in for that because that election is right on the heels of that. And people in Florida have also been purged from the rolls. And a lot of them didn't know that. And a lot of them don't even know that there are these special elections going on right now. But we can help. We can push people out. Again, especially Matt Gaetz' district. Can you imagine the glow up of that congressional seat from Matt Gaetz to Gabe Alamont to going from that piece of shit?
There's a lot of military,
right? So much military. Those veterans are feeling they're going to fire 83,000 people from the VA. They've already fired thousands of veterans. Like, this is not a partisan issue. And people need to understand that, because people are going to start feeling the brunt of this who voted for Donald Trump, and they're going to be laying the blame, thank you, Brian Schatz, at the wrong party's feet. And we need to continue to hold their feet to the fire, because we need people to associate exactly what the chain here is and the link is. And it's not between the Democrats in these cuts. It's between Elon Musk, Boney Stark, and his Doge bags, and the melted circus peanut, the Putin puppet. Like, that's it. Sorry. That was my...
Well, which brings me to the question of what the hell is going on with the Florida Democratic Party. Joe, you've been around them a lot more than I have recently, but the reason Florida has gone Republican, everybody's like, how did Florida go from a swing state to Republican, is that the Democratic Party of Florida completely eviscerated as an organization. It's just not like if they had a Ben Winkler down there, it'd be a whole different story.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Nikki Fried. I think
right. So that's my question for you. What is Nikki Fried? Right. So what is she doing to?
I'll tell you one thing she's doing from my perspective. Yeah, from my perspective, one thing she's doing, and I think that this is critical, and one of the things we just talked about on Smirconish, not to plug that, but also it is true, is he's leaning into talking to the right wing agitators and let's call them be generous provocateurs, and she's leaning into talking to left-leaning and progressive voices and creators in the digital space who can actually reach those people who may have disengaged or walked away or just didn't vote at all, because she understands the value of building an army of digital creators and independent media that can meet people where they feel seen, and she's really cutting edge about that. And she also talks to people in a way that people want to be talked to, not talked at. And both of those candidates down there, Josh Wheel and Gabe Alamont, do the same thing. And Nikki is so adept at navigating that critical space that we understand in the autopsy of the 2024 election. We have a lot of work to do. We don't need to be amplifying and giving more platform to the same freaking echo chamber that exists over there. We need to be amplifying and lifting up voices that talk about what is important to us.
You know what? That's time up. Sure enough, that's my son calling me because he knows I'm doing the show, but still, I'm sure there's something that he needs to.
Oh my gosh. Right now. My daughter, mom. I'm like, are you okay? Mom, where are my shorts? Like, what? Like,
and if you don't answer right away, 20,000 other texts and now calls because I don't even know what he wants.
And then you're as a mom, you're like, is something wrong? Like, are you okay? And it's just like, where's my blue eyeliner?
Here's what's supposed to get. Mom, is my package here? Question mark. Mom, what package? I don't even know what he's talking about. Anyway, go ahead.
Continue. No, I was just going off on a thing about Nikki. Yeah, Nikki Fried, Nikki Fried is killing it in Florida, and it is an uphill battle because there's been systemic degradation of that party in that state, and she has a tall order. She really has a tall order, but I think they're doing incredible work down there. The one fundraiser that we had, which was a couple weeks ago, they raised $24,000 and they had the biggest signups for their volunteer hub that in one day they've ever had. There is so much buzz down there. There's so much like enthusiasm for actually doing something to flip those seats, tons and tons and tons of money, which is absurd because this is the world we live in. We could use that money towards other things, but this is the world we live in. But I think that she is the tip of the spear in really changing the state of Florida and changing the Democratic Party in the state of Florida. And I think Ben Wickler, who no offense to Ken Martin, great guy, but I think Ben Wickler would have been an incredible DNC chair. Ben Wickler might be the most effective I've ever seen. What's that?
Yeah. He was the better choice. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, again, no, I don't mean any like personal offense to anybody, but like, come on, we needed a fighter at the top of the DNC, but it's the same party hacks, the same pool year after year with the same tactics. And they're like, oh, well, I have the relationships with this. It's why there's not a talking head also like out, representing the party, going on TV, they're like, oh, well, the party's too big. And, the candidates don't want somebody talking for that. It's just so ridiculous how Lara Trump is on TV every day.
Oh, yeah.
Who's up there for the Democrats? Who's doing this? I mean, Pete Buttigieg ran to run the DNC. That's where I remember the first time I knew about Pete Buttigieg when he ran in 2017, right?
And 2017, 2017 to be chair. Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, who's this guy? I love him. And then, I'm a fan since day one.
What do you think about this idea? We've talked about this. I think we talked about it on Wednesday of going into the red districts and red states and having the town halls like Bernie and Tim Walz is kind of killing it right now. Yep. I mean, I just from my own, I think every Dem should be doing that all the time. Again, to lay the responsibility and the blame at their feet. What do you guys think of that?
So you guys, first of all, I think we should do it. There are people in this chat who are like, you guys should do a national tour, come and do it. Like in a heartbeat. If you guys come, we'll come do it.
Yeah.
More relevantly, I was talking, I don't know if anybody here knows who Tom Malinowski is. I'm actually seeing him in a few hours, but you do, Joe, because he's your former congressman. So Tom Malinowski is a former congressman from the 7th Congressional District of New Jersey. And in addition to that, truly one of the most thoughtful, smartest people ever in politics. If you don't follow him on socials, you should, because he is able to condense. He's actually a good spokesperson for this party. He did a town hall in his former congressional district because the current congressman, Tom Kean, just refuses to do it. And I think he did it on Thursday.
Handle an elevator conversation, let alone a town hall.
Exactly. He asked me to come. I couldn't do it. But what's important is he said, and I'll find out more today when I see him, but he said it was like the RSVPs to get into this thing were so massive, and he's not an elected official right now. I don't think he's running for that seat. I shouldn't speak for him, but it's not like, I don't think he was doing it because he's looking to run in that seat again. I think he was doing it because he's like, well, hell, if my successor is not going to do it, I guess I'll talk to people about what I think is happening in Congress. He said it was like people were banging down the doors to get in, and not just Democrats. And that's what I don't get about the DNC. Like, that is so important for them to understand. People are hungry. Like, thousands of you guys show up on a Saturday morning to join us, and I'm so grateful that you do. But it's not just because you want to see our smiling faces in the mornings, although I'm sure that's a big part of the reason. It's because you're hungry for community. You're hungry for conversation. You want somebody to acknowledge how you're feeling. We want to acknowledge how we're feeling. That's why we're doing this. Yeah. And it's Saturday morning, and I'm blowing off my kid, who apparently is waiting for some package that I have no idea is coming. So, like, why aren't they doing this? It's not that hard. It's not that hard. And by the way, Michelle, you nailed it. Chuck Schumer is going on book tour.
Oh my God. When I saw that, I thought it was a joke. First of all, I also saw last week that Hakeem Jeffries is going on a book tour too. Both of them. I'm like,
and I think Gavin Newsom too.
Great timing, guys. And this is where
like what the world is burning. Why do you have time to go promote a book?
It's fiddling, right? They're fiddling.
Who's gonna read this stupid book? Like, am I gonna run out to Barnes and Noble and be like, I gotta pre-order Chuck Schumer's book because I must know what he's like? No, I'm not.
Like, what am I gonna learn that I didn't know already? Yeah. I mean, listen, people have every right to write a book, makes money, write the book. Like, great, this is how people.
Not on my taxpayer dime. Go do some work.
That too. I mean, the timing here is like especially egregious. And when I saw the list of the dates, because they are announced, the list of the dates and the locations, people are like, oh, book tour? I think you mean town halls, because people are going to show up and they're going to throw tomatoes. I mean, not literally, but like, it's going to be a tomato throwing event because, to your point about going into red districts and talking to people, I mean, not to bring it back to New York 21, but Elise Stefanik never did them. Never. She always did phone town halls because she was such a controlled. First of all, she never really faced a serious competitor. I mean, nothing against the people who have run, but it's just like she's never really had to like face something very difficult. So she also doesn't want to be faced with her constituents. She has called the cops on her constituents who literally were just protesting outside of one of her offices. But they were always like an invited town hall, and all the questions were pre-screened, and she's very protected, and she put herself in a bubble. And so anybody in the district that was really feeling something or wanted to talk to her, she really just put a rope around herself and was like, no, I'm not going to allow that because that makes me vulnerable and whatever else. So she, I think about the people up there. I mean, yes, it is very red. Yes, there's a lot of Trump. You'll see some Confederate flags and stuff flying up there. It's bonkers. But there's a lot of people who don't. There's a huge amount of independents. Huge amount of independents in that district. I think it's about like a third each. Maybe a little less of Democrats, but a lot of independents. And so for somebody to go up there, I'm thinking like a Tim Walz, or I would even see AOC. I always picture her being able to go into these places and getting booed. And then she starts talking, and then we were like, okay, well, she's actually speaking to things that, affect me. Listen to me. She understands me. I mean, that's the kind of communication I think people, to your point, are starved for it.
Yes.
And somebody in the chat asked,
they want to feel seen.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat asked, North Wildings asked, what's the deal with Gavin Newsom? Is he a turncoat? So to contrast with everything Michelle just said, You have people like AOC. And again, I don't give a rat's ass. And I keep using that expression, which I don't even know where that came from, but I don't care if you love or hate AOC's policies. If you love the Green New Deal, you don't love the Green New Deal, you love Democratic America. Right. Like, it's not about ideology anymore, guys. Honestly, it's about somebody who knows how to stand up and communicate. That's all that matters right now. Because Donald Trump knows how to communicate, and people don't even listen to his ideology. They just listen to his communication skills. If they did listen to his ideology, they never would have voted for him.
Right.
So the point is, she goes out there and she talks about stuff that resonates with normal people, like regular people, not everyday Americans, as Democrats, focus groups, people like us, because I don't know if you've ever referred to anybody as an everyday American. I never have. But she knows how to talk to regular
Saturday
people.
and Sunday.
Yeah, about like regular shit, right? The stuff that we all go through. Like, can you afford to send your kids to college? Can you afford to save up for that Little League uniform? Can you afford
groceries,
like groceries in your shopping cart, right?
A word Donald Trump saved, by the way.
Right. And then you've got Gavin Newsom, who I don't understand what the hell he's thinking, platforming the worst people on earth, but he's platforming the worst people on earth, and he's doing it so he gets attention, and he gets, you know, what do? You say outrageous shit, and you have outrageous people on your podcast in order to get engagement. And I guess if you're looking to be the next, you know, whoever, big podcast star, that's not a bad strategy. But if you're looking to actually like talk to Americans about their concerns, you don't put election deniers who unleashed January 6th on your podcast, Steve Bannon. Right. You don't put Charlie Kirk, who is a horrible anti-LGBTQ, anti-misogynist, homophobe, transphobe.
He literally said if he got on a plane and saw black pilots that he would get off.
Yeah, and there was really no pushback.
None.
By the way, no, there was definitely none about the election being stolen. But exactly to your point, Julie, like I think that's a misstep, miscalculation, and I think what's happened is it's broadened the chasm actually, and he's peeled off a lot of his own organic support, and because he's generally speaking so good at like combating disinformation, now that he's like chumming it up with the propagandists who are the worst purveyors of disinformation, it's legitimizing them. And we've seen that we need to be building our own digital response ecosystem that combats theirs. We need to gobble up all of that oxygen. And those people don't need more platforming. They don't need it. We need more on our side. So it feels very self-serving, disingenuous, and inauthentic. And I think that's how it's landing, personally.
And you guys want to hear the greatest part of this? I ran into, in the green room this week, a former congressperson whose name I will not disclose here, from California. And this person said to me, when I said to this person, what the hell is Gavin Newsom doing? This person said to me, well, what do you expect? He needs a lot of money because of the fires in LA. So he needs a lot of money from Trump. So like, basically this is his way of sucking up to Trump. I'm like,
Jesus.
I go, that's really? Because if that's the thinking, call up Trump privately, suck up to him privately, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't need to platform the worst people on earth. Like Donald Trump will take your ass kicking in any form you want to give it to him.
No. Right. And Trump doesn't care that you had Charlie Kirk on his podcast. No. Like it's just something that like he's gonna go, oh, whatever, like, oh, what a sucker. You know what I mean? Like he's just gonna make fun of it.
Yeah.
I can't.
And Trump, by the way, he hates California and Newsom so much. You know how he's like this retribution king. He hates them so much. And when the fires were raging, and he's like, "Release the spigot, unload the spigot, let the water go." Why don't you? After the friggin' fires, he then has the Army Corps of Engineers release billions of gallons of reserved water that is being reserved for fires. When the fires happen, which is not typically in the winter, he had them release all of this water they were reserving into farmlands that didn't need it. And so potentially almost flooding those farmlands. And now all that water gets wasted just so he can say,
while it was raining.
Yeah. Right. Look at me. I released the water. He doesn't give a shit. No podcast with Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, or any other freaking taint supper of his is going to get him to change his mind. But pivoting to Donald fucking awful Trump, because something he did yesterday, by the way, and the little fucking deranged man that he is, He wants to. It should be illegal. It should be illegal to criticize him, to criticize Aileen Cannon. It should be. He's not really sure if it's legal or illegal, which is a test balloon, right? When he always forecasts what he's gonna do, what he's trying to do, and he's now surrounded with a bunch of enablers who'll be like, yeah, sure, you want to annex Canada? Okay, let's do that. But now he's talking about it being illegal to criticize him and other people. And we're seeing it being illegal to use free speech, right? Because they're arresting, potentially deporting green card holders. So this is not, it's not like he just says it and you should just dismiss it. He's saying it because he's forecasting what he's going to do.
Yeah. And by the way, I love how he's like MSNBC.
Bye, Tara.
Bye, Tara. MSNBC and CNN are potentially illegal according to Donald Trump's little speech at the Justice Department. Congratulations, Warner Brothers Discovery. Congratulations, Comcast. All the ass kicking you've done, all the people you fired off the air, like Jim Acosta, or didn't fire Jim Acosta, but basically made Jim Acosta quit.
Joy Reid
didn't like him. What's that getting you? Right?
Yep.
Joy Reid and MSNBC,
Yep.
Congratulations. You guys really sucked up to Donald Trump. Don't you understand that there's no negotiating with this guy? Don't you understand that it's never going to be enough for him?
No.
Never.
And everyone is disposable and discardable.
Yeah. And so you have these people sitting at Warner Brothers Discovery, at the very tippy top of Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav and that whole crew, John Malone, who's a MAGA guy. You've got Comcast, which is a Republican corporation, sitting there thinking they're going to suck up to Trump. It's not enough. It's never going to be enough. Ever, ever, ever. ABC, Disney, you gave Trump a $15 million gift for his library, which the library will never be built, my friends. It wasn't built last term. It's not going to be built.
L-I-E Barry. Barry.
Right. Library.
Just
it's never going to be built.
His tweets on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. So that's one. And then two, where this whole like Canada, the French just moved. I don't know if people notice this. The French just moved a nuclear submarine off the coast of Halifax. You guys, if this is not the fucking French signaling to Donald Trump that they're coming to the defense of their NATO ally, Canada, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but the Democrats, don't worry, because the Democrats are playing nice and expect there being the grown-ups in the room in DC by bending over, right? I mean, it's just, the rest of the world is looking at us right now going, what the hell is going on over there? We need to work together. We need to band together and against us, which is, this is we always talk about this, the greatest generation and the people who understand that we fought fascism and now we're going backwards in time and watching our NATO allies showing up to support each other in a potential battle with us. Like are people just not understanding what is happening right now? Because a lot of Republicans who were like, America first, Julie just told you there's a nuclear sub off the coast of Halifax. Why? Potentially to let Donald Trump, the president of the United States, know when it comes to it, if we're going to go after Canada's sovereignty, we're going to have to go through France. And France's nuclear? How did I just nuclear?
Yeah.
Nuclear, right?
Nuclear. Unless you're George Bush, in which case it's nuclear.
I did. I just George Bushed that. Oof.
Totally George Bush.
Yeah, it could go through France's nuclear sub. Yeah. What the hell? This is insane.
Listen, I don't expect everyone to be like such a history nerd as I am. Like I nothing makes me happier than watching like dramatizations of the American Revolution and things like that. So I remember watching the Benjamin Franklin one recently, was it last year, and watching about what happened with the French and how important they were to us in the formation of this country. Like the French are our oldest allies. Like I'm talking 250 years kind of allies. And I remember, again, going to Normandy a couple years ago and driving through that little area and seeing in the windows an American flag and a French flag in people's windows and like feeling so emotional seeing that because of how important the French have been to us. And to think now that this is happening, it is beyond, like, it's beyond embarrassing. Like, it's just, my heart is shattered, just shattered. as an American. If there's any French people here, I don't know, probably not, but maybe there are, who knows. I'm so sorry. This is just horrible. And there's a lot of us here that, are ashamed, and we don't support this. And, we hope to think that, or we'd like to think that we're on the right side of history with you all. So,
yeah. And I mean, across every administration, no other president we've ever had really, has gone so far as to isolate us to this extent. I mean, against our longest standing allies, you know what I mean? And I think because there's been so many nips and tears at the fabric of our democracy over the course of Donald Trump's just fucking existence, and watching the entire Republican Party acquiesce to this shit and capitulate to this shit, that I think people just don't realize how much of it he's been able to erode, that we are here now. We are here now where he's talking about Putin and Zelensky in the reverse, that Zelensky doesn't want peace, but Putin, who's just rejected the bullshit peace, that ceasefire, right? But Putin is the one who wants peace. Putin is the aggressor. But we are in a country now where everything is upside down, and it seems so antithetical to what it actually means to be an American that I think people just can't fully fathom the gravity of this moment. I don't know. What do you guys think? I just think.
You're absolutely right. And to put it even kind of more finer point on it, I don't know if people have been following these stories, which again, under normal circumstances, should be dominating the news, but there's so much bullshit happening that not everybody's even focusing on this. There was a German national who is dating an American woman. They were in Mexico and they crossed the border into Southern California. The guy was arrested, thrown into ICE detention, and was kept there, I think, for at least a week without any access to anything, and then was basically deported back to Germany. There is a British woman right now, a young woman who was, I guess, backpacking across the States, detained by ICE for no reason. I mean, she had all, by the way, if you come here from the European Union or from Great Britain, you don't need a visa to come here. You just come here on a 90-day tourist visa the way everybody else does. They're grabbing people off the streets who are here absolutely legally as tourists and throwing them into ICE detention. Are you kidding me? Not to mention this guy from Colombia who, again, we talked about this last time. I don't agree with him. I'm not ideologically aligned with him, but my God, I will go march to the death on behalf of this guy who is now in Louisiana. His wife is 8 months pregnant. He's a green card holder, an American resident. His wife is an American citizen. She's about to give birth. And they want to deport him. Why? We actually don't know why, because he hasn't broken any laws. They haven't charged him with anything. They just don't like what he says. Because
we're helping the South African farmers.
Yes. And because he was protesting against what the Israelis were doing in Gaza. Now, last I checked, you can protest against what the Israelis are doing in Gaza any day of the effing week.
And just as long as it's not a Tesla.
Right, exactly. And why is this guy in prison right now, in ICE detention, basically abducted as a legal resident? Why are these tourists abducted and thrown into ICE detention without access to any? I mean, they don't know lawyers here. They don't know how to deal with the immigration system here. So there are people I see on this chat from the Netherlands. There are people here from the UK. You guys, you're like our greatest allies. And yet, would I recommend that you come to the United States right now? Are you kidding?
I know.
What?
And I was going to put this up too. This is a horrible story that in the same realm of topic. This has Seneca branding on it because we were going to put it on the stakes the other night. So I apologize for that. But I don't know if you guys saw this.
No.
There's these two parents who were Mexican. They have a child who was born in the United States, who is 10 years old and is dealing with brain cancer. And they deported her and her parents.
I'm old enough. God bless this family. I'm old enough to remember when we got gaslit into believing that the Democrats were heartless goons because they didn't applaud a young warrior boy named DJ at Donald Trump's State of the Disunion, because look, whatever, they shouldn't have had an opportunity to even be gaslit into that moment. But that child is a brain cancer survivor, and we were told that we were cruel and heartless, right? Meanwhile, this is what they're actually doing, and God bless DJ and his family, but we are again being gaslit into believing that we're the ones who are cruel and heartless because of some optics, again, fucking optics. But don't pay attention to what's happening up here. Look at what they're actually doing.
Look at the shiny object over here.
Exactly, guys. Why is it that Michelle Kinney needed to bring this up on her podcast and Tara's podcast on Thursday? Why are we the ones talking about this now? Where are the Democrats who have a massive megaphone on the Hill screaming to high heaven about this? Because I remember DJ, when Nicole Wallace said something incredibly appropriate about DJ, that's saying, God bless this cancer survivor, but actually, if you want to talk about law enforcement, Donald Trump unleashed a crazy mob against law enforcement on January 6th and almost had them murdered.
And they're defunding
they're defunding this. And apparently Nicole Wallace had to go and heads had to roll. And how dare Nicole Wallace say anything that it wasn't just a hagiography of Donald Trump's giving this poor cancer kid a badge, a Secret Service badge. They're talking about that 24/7. Meanwhile, this young girl, I don't know what the cancer care is like for her in Mexico. It's probably a death warrant because her doctor.
I wanted to read some of this in case someone's just listening and not watching. So the parents of this young girl had done the trip across the border from Mexico to the United States at least 5 other times in the past, passing through an immigration checkpoint every time without any issues. In previous occasions, the parents showed letters from the doctors and lawyers to the officers at the checkpoint to get through. It says the 10-year-old was diagnosed with brain cancer last year and underwent surgery to remove the tumor. Doctors practically gave me no hope of life for her, but thank God she is a miracle. The swelling on the girl's brain is still not fully gone, the mother said, causing difficulties with speech and mobility on the right side of her body. Before the family was removed from the U.S., the girl was routinely checking in with doctors monitoring her recovery, attending rehabilitation therapies, and taking medication to prevent convulsions. It's a very difficult thing. I don't wish anyone to go through this situation. But in early February, the letters were not enough. When they stopped at the checkpoint, they were arrested. After the parents were unable to show legal immigration documentation, the mother, who spoke exclusively with NBC News, said she tried explaining her daughter's circumstances to the officers, but they weren't interested in hearing that. Other than lacking valid immigration status in the U.S., the parents have no criminal history.
It's just, I'm sorry, but like, it's just not who we are. Right? It's not who we say we are. It's not who we strive to be. It's not who we lift ourselves up to be. It's so fucking blatantly cruel and pointlessly cruel. Like, what? Tell me, what is the upside? Y'all telling me to cry harder? I'm literally fucking crying right now, okay? Because that little girl was probably just dealt a death sentence. Why? Because her parents did everything they could, everything within their power to save her, to take her to the beacon of democracy and freedom and hope and that we used to be, that we used to believe we were, that we in our hearts so many of us still are. And I don't care how you vote, I don't care what letter is next to your name. If that story doesn't move you just like DJ's did, then fuck you. Sorry, Julie's dad, but fuck you. Don't tell me to try harder. By the way, planes falling out of the sky because of the Secretary of Hot Tub Transportation's fucking gutted FAA. And one of those planes had a Mexican girl who had just completed her treatment at a pediatric hospital here, and her family and her doctors. So, like, if you don't see what is happening before you as a human issue, as an American issue, and you just want to stick with your, cry harder, stick it to the libs, own the libs bullshit narrative, then fuck you. That's it. That's the most articulate I can be about that. Fuck you. And God bless this little girl. If there are people out there who can help that family some other way, please, God bless you. Like, please help them. Like, help her, because this is not who we are.
And I say this, and Joe, you'll agree with me because we're both moms on this. Like, when you, and every parent on this chat knows this, and even those of you who are not parents, you know this also. When you are pregnant, when you get pregnant, all you think about is you pray to God that your child is healthy. You go to every single doctor's appointment, every sonogram, you hold your breath, hoping everything's okay. You give birth, and the first thing you want to hear is your baby's. I used to literally have a recurring nightmare that my son would be born and I wouldn't hear his cry. Like, that was a nightmare I used to have, because that's how healthy lungs, the whole thing. And that can be any one of us. That could be any one of our children. And it is there, but for the grace of God, go all of us. And if you don't have any kind of empathy for this little girl, if you're that person at the border who looks at her and says, you know what? I don't give a rat's. I'm deporting you back to Mexico. And I don't care if you're like, what kind of monster are you? You're not going to look the other way. Really? You're not going to let her come through, even though she's got letters from her doctors here in the United States saying that she needs help because she's going to die? You're really going to be that asshole who, on behalf of Donald Trump or whatever ideology you have, is going to sentence a little girl, a 10-year-old, to death?
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Because, by the way, you better pray to God that that's not going to happen to your kid one day. Because I guarantee all of those people have kids, or they have people who have kids that they care about.
And they say they're pro-life, right? Pro-life. Yeah. It's pro-life to deny this family and this little girl access to the healthcare she was receiving, the life-saving healthcare she was receiving. Tell me how that's pro-life. How can you say that it's pro-life? It's not. Because you're letting this child die. And that's what we see, the hypocrisy of them saying they're pro-life on so many different issues. Like, you'll let a miscarrying woman die from sepsis before giving her miscarriage care. Yeah. I saw a woman in Texas speaking at an Abortion in America event who was in Florida, and she still had a fetal heartbeat, even though her fetus was diagnosed with a disorder that it would never, ever, ever survive. And when it was born, which was several months early, it came out blue, but it was still alive. And they had to watch this fetus gasping for air for 90 minutes before it finally died. And this woman had to carry this fetus in her body for months and months, knowing it wasn't viable, because this is how pro-life they are. They're so pro-life that the baby had to suffer, had to just choke to death for 90 minutes. This is where I just want to scream. I'm sorry, I'm on a soapbox. I understand that, but like, I had not seen that story, Michelle, and it has really, really upset me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. I can't. Somebody had sent it to me, and then Katie Fang actually on her Instagram had done some videos about it, which I was grateful to see. But beyond that, I mean, again, to your point, Julie, I mean, there's just been so much that these kinds of human stories, which I actually think do change hearts and minds, is the storytelling of this moment that we're living through. Don't get told enough, because there are just so many other surface level horrible things that also deserve our attention. But there is the human element of all of this, that it is affecting human beings, and our ability to live, to breathe, to not die of something that's completely preventable. Because it's not about life, to your point, Joe. It's not about being pro-life. It's about control. And it's about policing women's bodies, which we know. And because, women are sacrificial lambs in all of this. I think my assumption is that they're like, well, it's too bad that those women die, but like, they're going to need to die so that we can do this.
Let me just say this. I went to Auschwitz about 10 or 15 years ago. And I don't know if anybody on this chat has been there. I don't know if either of you have been there, but what struck me about Auschwitz, in addition to the fact that it was even worse in real life than I could have possibly ever imagined, is that Birkenau, which is the actual death camp of Auschwitz itself, was a war camp, but Birkenau was Auschwitz too, and that was where most of the exterminations took place. You had the bombed out crematoria, the remains of it, and right behind it, 50 feet, 100 feet, I'm really not good with distances, but really close, there's a fence, and on the other side of that fence were normal houses where normal people lived.
Yeah.
And clearly, when the ashes came out of that crematoria, they would come down on the house, because that's what happens. and the wind would blow it into their yard. They could smell it. They knew exactly what was happening. But yet, if you ask those people, yeah, Julie is a Jew, Matt. Thank you for pointing that out. I guess that's an insult. Horrific human beings. So what's going on in this scenario is I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, these people knew, and if you ask them what they knew, they'd say they didn't know anything. I'm sure, right? And that's kind of what's happening. You kind of, and when I went there, this is well before Trump, I was thinking how humanity has evolved where we don't have that kind of situation anymore. But actually it hasn't evolved, because if you're a Border Patrol agent and you're just following orders, support a little girl who is dying of cancer back to a country where you know she's going to die. When you're cutting USAID, Nick Kristof in the New York Times did a whole thing on this, where he actually went to Africa to see if anybody died as a result of these USAID cuts. And yeah, he named 3 children who died as a result of Elon Musk's cuts to USAID, despite Elon Musk saying that none of them have affected anybody's life.
Yeah.
Things really haven't changed much since 1941.
No, and the grandchildren of some of the Nazi supporters, happen to have been raised in South Africa, and look where we are now. Elon Musk. I have this story. Musk retweets Hitler didn't murder millions message amid ongoing Nazi controversy. So here is the thing, and he has since deleted it. He retweeted it. Stalin, Mao, and Hitler didn't murder millions of people. Their public sector workers did.
I mean,
well, as somebody whose grandfather was in the Gulag and whose great-grandfather was murdered in Stalin's personal orders, I don't think public sector, they didn't have public sector employees back then, my friends. I don't know what you're talking about. What public sector? You think the CWA was operating in the Soviet Union?
He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And if anyone hasn't seen the film Zone of Interest, Julie, what you're talking about, the people, the houses on the perimeter, Zone of Interest, I hate to say my favorite movie of that year, but it stuck out to me, and it's really, it shook me. It's about the guy who ran Auschwitz and how his family lived. It's a true story.
Yeah.
His family lived right there. And you never see the inside of the concentration camp. You never see any of the prisoners, anything that's going on there. You just hear it, and you see. And so you're watching this family just kind of go about their daily life like it's nothing, because, I'm just doing my job. I'm just living here. My husband works here, and, we have kids and we have a garden and all these things. And you're just watching these people commit one of the worst atrocities in human history, while just going about their lives, pretending like it's nothing. And, people are so close to doing horrible things. They just have to be pushed just a little bit and normalized just a little bit. And I don't know why, I'm always just shocked to know how horrible human beings can be.
And Timothy Snyder writes about this all the time. You know what I mean? But this is the playbook, right? That you can bring people to these places where they can both commit and excuse acts of incredible atrocity. And anybody who thinks that can't happen here, or we're being histrionic or hyperbolic about this, I mean, look around, look at history. But, we're not talking about Donald Trump being Hitler in 1943. Donald Trump is Hitler in 1933 right now. All the roadblocks are there, right? What we embolden in this moment, what we embrace in this moment, what we let slip away in this moment is paving the path for Donald Trump to be Adolf Hitler in 1943. I mean, it's the same exact playbook. It's been written over and over again. And Elon Musk's stupid motherfucking points, this is Orwellian. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. That is what Elon Musk and Donald Trump and all of their enablers and the little feckless cronies that do their bidding, that is what they're doing. That is what that tweet was intended to do. And we've seen this dismantlement of the truth and facts. And I just want to add one last thing, and before we sort of wrap up and give final thoughts, because at 10:44 p.m. last night, after the CR got through the Senate, Trump issued an executive order to eliminate, to the maximum extent consistent with applicable law, the following agencies: the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, the United States Agency for Global Media, the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars and the Smithsonian Institution, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, the Minority Business Development Agency. Great job, Dems. Way to go. That is exactly what you empowered and emboldened. But good job standing up for your constituents.
Mandate. It's just more mandate messaging from them. All they do is talk about the mandate. Oh, we have a mandate. And then Democrats gave them more mandate. There's so many little incel men in these comments today. There are every time, but like little incel men tweeting from their mom's basement.
But thanks for watching. They're helping the algorithm for us, so we really appreciate it.
Engagement, we appreciate it. But one of them said, "I can't believe after getting absolutely destroyed in the election, they still do shows and talking point like this." That doesn't even make sense. Still talking about Hitler. Yeah, we are still talking about Hitler. You know why? Because of all of these things that are happening. I just don't like, I don't understand if they think that they're owning us or something like that. Someone else said, this is why women shouldn't be in positions of power. I mean, like all of these triggered men, all of this, and it's all men. It's all men who are so triggered by women who have opinions and voices and a platform to express them.
And somebody in the chat just said, you can't even tell me what a woman is. I'll tell you what a woman is. A woman is somebody who has to listen to a man mansplain to her what a woman is. That's what a woman is, right? Yeah. Thank you for, but why don't you, incel man, tell the three of us what a woman is? Because obviously we don't know.
Mm-hmm. God, they're so upset. It's like, they can't get women. So I think they're asking us literally because they don't know. They don't know because they're in their mommy's basement with the Lubriderm and fucking Hubert or whatever the fuck they're playing on their Commodore 64s. Who the fuck knows? But like, you figure it out. We're not here to tell you what a woman is. And if you think that the beautiful faces on this screen don't know, that I'm not going to help you find out. I can guarantee you that. Anyway, closing thoughts, Julie?
Closing thoughts are, you guys, thank you for the therapy session on Saturday mornings. As always, it was so wonderful to be with all of you and with everybody on this chat today. You guys, thank you for joining us, because there are literally thousands and thousands of people every Saturday who come join us.
There are 16,000 people watching right now, which is
amazing. I mean, thank you for watching us. There are going to be thousands more who are going to watch the replay of this. This community just keeps growing, and we're so deeply grateful to you. We miss you, Tara Setmayer. We're going to see you on Wednesday. Join us at noon on Wednesday for Over It, where we don't sit around drinking coffee. Well, sometimes actually we sit around drinking coffee, but usually, vodka. But thank you, everybody.
My trolls love to say that about me.
Straight up how we went into the vein. That was a joke, Dad, in case you're watching.
Sorry, Julie.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Love you, ladies. Love this incredible community we're building. Love this audience. Love Tara Setmayer, who hopefully is not bent over in a cellar toilet right now, being really sick. No. And that's it. And hopefully it's gonna get better. I don't know if it is, but we'll get through it together. That's all.
Yeah. This is the only way we will.
Yeah.
Because if we do it together.
Yep. So the only way out is through, and the only way through is together.
And we will keep talking until they shut us down, and even if they shut us down, we'll still find a way to talk, because
smoke signals.
We didn't go through all the shit we went through in our respective individual lives to acquiesce, like so many of our congressiontional friends have.
And our families. I think about Joe's dad. Julie, I think about you coming here from the Soviet Union as a little girl.
Yep. And you're fighting for freedom in the American Revolution, Michelle, and Tara's story, which is equally amazing. So
that's the story of America. That's what we're not going to forget. That's what we're not going to, and that's not a partisan issue at all. That's it's American, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah.
All right, ladies, have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Yes.
Everybody, see you soon.
We're mad at you, Brian Schatz. We're very
Schatz. Michelle was no longer going to have your Backstreet Boy poster hung up on her wall the way she used to.
We'll have to go to Hawaii and have our first live show in Hawaii. That'll really show him. That's what we'll have to do.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to do a tour of all the islands just to really make it clear to him how deeply unhappy we are. It's been
and one of those overwater bungalows.
Yeah, overwater bungalow, just to really stick it to Brian Schatz.
Exactly correct. Everyone have a great weekend. Enjoy Selection Sunday. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yeah, happy St. Patrick's.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Bye.
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 Bye.